welcome to Pursue the Pull, the podcast that is geared towards helping people who are looking for a career change or for those who want to pursue their dreams and start their own business. So, how do we differ from all of the other inspirational podcasts out there? Well, what we do is we interview people from a range of industries. So, if you want to set up your own restaurant or marketing agency or yoga studio, whatever it might be, we have someone specific from that industry to tell you how to get started, the highs and lows, and most importantly, the truth. Now, we are one group, one community, and we have all of the answers. Now, I am your host, Stacey Bevan, and today I have another surprise for you. So this interview again is going to be slightly different to some of the others. I have an amazing guest, and his name is Neil Doig, and he is the founder of Money Tips and author of an Amazon bestseller. And today he's going to tell us how to identify our passion and achieve the perfect career using a specific framework called Ikigai. I hope I pronounced that right. And we will also talk about investing for starters. So first of all, I want to thank you so much for joining us, Neil. We really appreciate the insight that you're about to give us.
Thank you so much for having me, Stacey. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, perfect. So, okay, before we go into all of the questions, I'm just going to give the audience a little bit of background and just give them a bit of insight into what it is that you actually do. So you are the founder of Money Tips, which is an education technology company where you offer a wide range of resources to help people learn everything you need to know, or they need to know, I should say, about investing, taxes, property, pensions, savings, and more. You are also the author of Millennial Money Mindset book, which was shortlisted for a Financial Times Writing Prize and an Amazon bestseller. You are also the creator of Football Formation Asset Allocation card game, which is the world's first investing trading card. And you are a finance speaker, including speaking at the London Investor Show and at the Feast Festival in London also. You are also the host of Millennial Money Mindset podcast and YouTube, and you help people identify their passions and achieve financial freedom amongst a range of other things. So this is amazing. I am eager to get started, and I'm just going to jump straight into it if that's okay with you.
That sounds great. Thanks for the introduction, Stacey.
No, thank you. So, okay, so your background. So, what did you actually do before you started this business? Before you actually went into, what is your professional background, if you like? Was you working, then went straight into this? How did it all come about?
So I'm a money coach at the moment with Money Tips. I had 3 careers before Money Tips. So I started off in shipping, so moving giant tankers around the world. So these are giant tankers that they're 3 or 4 the size of a football pitch. So I was in documentation. And then I moved to gas trading, buying and selling millions of pounds worth of gas each day. So natural gas, if you turn your heating on at home, that's the natural gas that heats your home. And then I moved to my biggest daily gain was £940,000 gain in a day trading the market. Kind of 8 screens around me, 12-hour days working, kind of questioning what I want to do with my life. I got made redundant from that role actually, and it kind of put me into a tailspin of actually what do I want to do with my life. So I actually used this framework that we're going to talk about today, this Ikigai framework. So I looked at my strengths, where's demand, what I'm passionate about, and what the world needs. And essentially, I decided to become. I was pretty good at investing. I've been investing for, at that time, 10 years. I've now been investing over 20 years, and it's one of the things that really I enjoyed doing, and I was good at as well. And all my friends used to come up to me and say, Neil, how do you invest your money? What do you, what do you do with your winnings, or how do you make money on the stock market? So I decided to retrain. I became a financial advisor. I did education, had retraining exams. Joined a 6-month program at a FTSE 100 company, and they essentially supported me in my role to financial advisor. And then I had a kind of conundrum where they actually refused to publish my book, Millennial Money Mindset. They said, why would we publish a book? Why would we give all the answers away if for a £15 book, when we're charging tens of thousands of pounds for financial advice fee? So I saw there's a gap in the market and a clause in there's Financial Conduct Authority, which is the financial body in the UK. And essentially, so what I offer is new and unique. It's so education and financial guidance rather than specific advice. So I used to be regulated by the FCA, but I saw a gap in the market where people need to have good quality education and make the decisions themselves rather than specific advice. So I started up Money Tips, and essentially we offer this new and unique solution offering. I give one-to-one money coaching. I've got courses, and we publish 10 books. So we've got 3 courses and 10 books, educating and empowering people to make better decisions with their money.
Wow. Okay. And when you kind of went into this and you set up your own business and everything, because obviously you had to do that transition like most of us are trying to do from, a working environment to our own kind of business. Yeah. Did you have any fears at that time, and how did you overcome them?
So the biggest fear that I had, I wrote about this in my book, Millennial Money Mindset. And it's about imagining yourself you're 85 years old and then looking back at your life. And one of the biggest fears I had was, actually, did I take all the opportunities that I made? Did I take all the opportunities that I had offered? Did I have, all the chances that I had offered? Did I take them? And my biggest fear was being 85 and looking back and thinking, Neil, I should have done this, or I should have done that. I should have started that business. I should have asked that person out on a date. I should have taken that job interview, and not doing that thing. That's my big fear. And so I think there's a difference between regret and discipline. So discipline versus regret. So regret or discipline, actually doing the day-to-day tasks weighs pebbles. It's small, these daily tasks that you can do. Whereas regret weighs mountains. So you're looking back in your life, and you have this mountain of this debt or regret that you didn't take these opportunities. So that was a big fear that I had.
So that's what you use to kind of overcome and say, look, I need to do this because I'd rather, take a chance than live with the regret of not taking this opportunity.
Exactly.
So how did you actually identify your passion, and how did you know that this was the right path for you to pursue this route that you are doing now?
So good question. So when I was writing my book, Millennial Money Mindset, I stumbled across this Japanese concept called Ikigai, and it kind of was quite profound. I was like, actually, I had to put this into the book because it's had so much of an impact on my own life. So there's the 4 sections, and we can deep dive into this later on, but essentially look at your strengths. So what are you good at? What do people come to and say, ask for your advice for, or ask your, look back at school. What were you good at school? Were you good at, perhaps you were a mathematician, perhaps you were, really good at geography, or maybe you enjoyed PE. You didn't like sport, you didn't like school at all. So you reflect on yourself and look at your strengths. So we're all individuals, we're all human beings, we all have our unique talents and strengths and skills. So really just reflect and work out what you're good at. There's plenty of personality tests. So there's a really good personality test called Myers-Briggs, which is it uses it's this guy called Carl Jung, psychology. You can deep dive into that, but it's basically work out what are you good at, your strengths, skills, and talents. That's number one. Then there's demand. You don't work out where can you get paid for. So you have to, essentially, any business or any job, you're solving a problem. You're solving a meaningful problem. So what problems are there in the world? So today there's so many problems out there that you as either a business owner or you're working a job, you're solving these problems. Even if you're a doctor, someone's coming to you with their problems. If you're, an entrepreneur, you're solving people's problems. If you're a school teacher, you're solving the problem of education. You're teaching people how to, learn maths or something. So look at where there is a demand. And if you ever know economics, demand and supply, so equals price. So the higher the demand, the higher the price. So when I started off in shipping, I looked at the world and actually realized that there's a huge amount of growth. I saw a graph, and it was China was just entering the global market. And if we know anything back, if you look at kind of the statistics of China over the last 10, 20 years, it's had a huge growth if compared to what it was 10 years ago. So the amount of growth in shipping containers all around the world had a huge, there was a huge demand at that time. So look today, where is there demand? Look at technology that's growing. You move to a growing industry. Don't go into coal mining, for instance, because coal mining's a dying industry. The coal, there's climate change. We're not going to be. There's not going to be the need for coal in the future. Whereas if you look at renewables, for example, there's going to be a huge demand for solar panels or wind technology or storage of this electronic. Just to use as an example. So look for the demand. There's a huge amount of demand. There's blockchain, AI. Internet of Things. There's a huge amount of growth. We live in wonderful times. We live in a wonderful world, and there's a huge amount of growth. So find the growth and basically chase that. Don't do the hard work. Make it easy on yourself. Then find a passion. What are you passionate about? What excites you? What can you not stop talking about? If someone asks you a question, what do you talk about endlessly? And then finally, what does the world need? So we live on a planet following around the sun, and we need to focus on sustainable developments becoming much more important than ever before. I used to work for an oil company when I started in my career 20 years ago, and the change has been immense. So oils now seem to be really bad, and the move to renewable energy is much more what the world needs right now. So look at what the world needs, that's really impactful. Understand what the world needs, and then you're going with the wind rather than against the wind, and it's going to make everything much easier for you.
Okay. So basically, just to summarize that, you mentioned that, some of the things that people should have to obviously identify their passion and to go into business is first and foremost, yes, identifying their passion. And we're going to come on to that in a moment. And we're going to go through the model that you mentioned, the Ikigai model. I'm pretty certain I called it IKEA at the beginning, but I'll play it back a little.
It's fun. I don't know how to pronounce it. As I was saying at the intro, my brother speaks Japanese, and I visited Japan. He had a wedding in Japan, and his wife is Japanese. So I need to check. I should check what how you pronounce it. But I don't know myself.
After all, so it's okay. So essentially, we're going to go through that in a moment. But identifying your passion, looking at the skills and the talents that you had maybe from a very young age, which is very key actually, because that's something that I did, and I do remember actually doing that. Also looking at growth in the market trends, and looking at opportunities in the market. So let's just jump back a moment and just look at the passion part of it, because a lot of people that I speak to then, and a lot of the questions I have are around, I want to start a business, but I don't know what to start a business in. I don't actually know what my passion is. So when I saw this framework that you presented to me, I was like, this is amazing. And this is something that, people need to hear. So can we go through this framework? Can you just give us some insight into what it is and the different stages and so on?
Yeah. So think of it like 4 circles. So in the book, I've put 4 circles. So each area. So your strengths, number 1 is the circle, the demand, number 2, your passions, number 3, and number 4 is what the world needs. So think of them like each one a different circle, and they all intersect each other. They call it like a Venn diagram, a Venn diagram. And then the center of these points where they all intersect think of it like a bullseye, like you're aiming at something like archery or and in the middle is your targets. This is where all 4 circles kind of intersect, and this is your kind of your sweet spot, where this is like in Japan they call it your reason for being, or this is kind of your purpose in life. This is how you find your purpose in life. It doesn't necessarily matter if all 4 don't intersect at the moment, but really this is your kind of sweet spot, where this is to find your purpose for life. If you're kind of, a lot of people today, there's so many opportunities, and there's so many choices, and there's so many decisions to make, and it's almost it's a paradox of choice. There's so many choices that it becomes overwhelming. So the similar thing with investing, there's thousands of different platforms or ETFs, exchange traded funds you could buy, or unit trusts, or companies, thousands of different companies that you can buy all around the world. And it can become overwhelming, and it can become kind of stressful in itself. All this choice, we live in wonderful times, but in this wonderful times, there's a negativity that we actually have so many choices, and it leads to an overwhelm. So this framework kind of breaks it down really simply and easily into 4 steps. And you just need to work through these each step to to find out essentially where you could where your reason for being is. And when you hit this kind of passion, this when you hit your kind of sweet spot, it leads to happiness, and you're going to get paid more because you're enjoying something you're doing, and you're better at it. If your skills, if you've identified your skills and talents and what you're good at individually, then you're going to be out competing everyone else, because you're using your skills that no one else has, and you basically create your own little niche. So your business, there's so much competition in business. The great thing today that it's never been easier to set up your own business, but with that comes the downside that there's more competition than ever. And if you can create your own unique selling point or your own unique area of focus, then you're going to be deadly in the marketplace. You're going to be able to outcompete anyone, and this is going to save you loads of time figuring this out, loads of energy, and it's going to actually mean you can create financial independence for you and your family much sooner than before.
So let's talk about, so the first circle is like the skills part, which you mentioned. And I think what I did when I was looking into it is I actually looked at my career as a whole. So I looked at what I enjoyed doing and what I was passionate about when I was younger. But then I looked at my career as a whole, and I took out the things that I really, really loved and the things that I really, really didn't like. And then the things that I really loved, I thought, okay, there's something with these things. Let me try and build a career out of that. And essentially, quite a long story short, but that's how I got into, the digital area of marketing and being a strategist and so on, because those were the things that I loved. But then when I was doing other sides like, events, setting up events, I knew that was a side that I, didn't particularly favour. So looking at all of the strengths and everything that I was really good at and that I enjoyed doing, it actually did start building a career for me. It actually did align with what I actually loved, and it did help to identify what I was passionate about. So I do agree with that side. I think that is key. But when you're talking skills from a young age, I mean, I wanted to be a teacher when I was younger, and funnily enough, I do a lot of training now. So, is that kind of what you mean in terms of looking at and honing in on your skills?
Exactly. So looking at you said it perfectly. Looking at what you're good at school is a really good indication. So, and the subjects you enjoy, there was definitely certain subjects that I love going to, and there were certain subjects that, double maths on a Friday afternoon always used to drag for me, because mathematics doesn't kind of envisage or enliven me. I find it quite difficult to get excited about maths, whereas geography or PE, or I love business. I used to love going to them. And if you are with a business, you want to make it as easy as possible. So you want to be doing the things that you love. And the great thing about business, you can outsource the things you don't like to do. So I was we talk about maths. You can get an accountant to do your accounts if you want, if that's not your thing. Or I have a card game it's the world's first investing trading card game called Football Formation Asset Allocation. I outsourced my illustrations to India. We got a team in India to draw each card. I can show you if you like. I don't know if it's a podcast, so maybe you can't see it, but each card has its own unique this is the card game here. I don't know if podcasts can see it. So I was never good at art. So you can outsource the stuff you're not good at in business. And that's a good thing about business. So, and also coming back to skills, it doesn't matter if you don't have all the skills. So I was never, believe it or not, I wrote a book called Millennial Money Mindset, but I had to learn how to write. I have books to teaching me how to write. There are skills that you can learn today. It's never been easier to pick up skills, or I was never a great public speaker. I'm quite an introvert by nature. And so I went to place called Toastmasters, which is like a speech. It's a speaking club. You can go and learn how to speak better. And there's tips and tricks and techniques that that make it much easier to improve your skills. Today, developing yourself is one of the most important things you can do. So there's a really good quote by Jim Rohn, and I think it's like, formal education will make you a living, whereas self-development will make you a fortune. So it's never been more important to improve your personal development, and that's what I'm doing also at Money Tips. We have personal development courses to learn and improve yourself, improve the skills you don't have. So don't worry if you don't have all the skills. You can learn, and I think of it like if there's a theme that runs through your life. So for me, I studied geography, so I love geography. And investing is very similar to geography. Shipping is very similar to geography. Trading, believe it or not, like, is very similar to geography. Understanding the energy balance, and find a similar theme that runs through your life that's going to make you better than the competition in business.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with that. And investing in yourself, I am constantly learning all the time. Even now, I've been in, marketing for around 17 years. I'm showing my age there, but a long time. And I still look and learn everything about marketing. I'm still very much in the field of learning. So I do agree with that. So the second part you mentioned was obviously growth in the market and what is happening in the market, and that is also important. I mean, I remember when I started, I was doing traditional marketing, and obviously Google Ads came about, and there was microsites and apps and everything else. So I knew that digital was going to be big, and that's why I kind of transitioned into that. So let's is it anything else that we can look at in terms of growth in the market? Is it just looking at the trends and what's trending, and what could have longevity? And
so demand. So if you're starting a business, you're solving a meaningful problem. So where are there a demand for meaningful problems? And there's certain areas that are evergreen. So wealth, health, relationships, happiness. So you can focus on these demands, and there's always going to be a demand for wealth, health, happiness, and relationships. So pick one of those. I would say start off with one of those. So I focus on wealth. So everyone wants to, you mentioned it earlier when we started. Some people, are doing a 9-to-5 job, might not necessarily be loving what they're doing. You might be working in a factory. It's not your calling. It's not your passion. You're just doing it to make ends meet. That's not a bad thing. That's not. That's fine. We all do that. I started off in jobs that I don't necessarily want, but I think focus on evergreen markets, and there are certain skills that you can learn as well that are going to support that. So speaking, writing, you said digital skills, these are not going away anytime soon. So if you can focus on that and solve people's problems, then that's a real key to starting your business. So one other thing is, people like to save time. So if you can save time, that's really key. So we're all busier than ever before. So people, especially high net worth individuals or people with families, or these people, if you can save people an hour of their time, then you can have that time to spend with your family, or spend with your friends, or have more me time doing the things that you love.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, it's like Uber. If you look at Uber and how they came in, and it just kind of it went huge, and it was answering what the customers needed, basically. So that was a really good smart move from Uber. But I agree.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
the platform where you see the cab coming to you, and it's almost like a relief. You're like, oh, I can see the cab coming for me.
Exactly. Tracking everything. Security for kids, it's amazing. So I agree, things like that, and looking at things, market demands, but also longevity. And I like the 4 areas that you mentioned as well. So like you say, there's a lot of things that you can learn and skills that you can apply to those areas already. So that's really interesting.
And one other thing I was just going to say, so start off what are you passionate about? What do you do anyway? So you might be really into food, you might be really into I don't know, even like selling, I don't know, Furbies on the weekend. You might have or whatever, I'd like a toy or something like, and then you can now monetize that on the internet. There'll be someone on the internet that will find also the billions of people that are on the internet. They'll also find that passion. And then, if you can monetize your passion, and you're ahead of everyone else because you enjoy what you're doing it anyway. So if you can do it as a side hustle, so by that it's a side project on the weekend or after work, if you're doing that already, then you're already winning. So I love investing. I was doing this anyway, so I had hours of research done already. I spent hours picking stocks or trying to beat the market or reading books. As you can see behind me, I love reading books, and that's to try and find your strength and then linking that with your passion as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, what advice would you give to people who are looking at starting a business? Would you say it is just passion that makes a business, or do you think there are other elements to it, or do you think passion is the key thing that you need to be successful overall?
So I saw a really good graph, and it had three different, if you think three different blocks, and one of them had passion, then the next one was talent, and then the next one was consistency, and it had the three blocks. So passion, talent, consistency. So those are the three key things that I think. So passion, you've got to care. I think coming back to care, especially if you're starting out, you're most likely to be solving a problem face to face with a person. It's probably the easiest way to start a consultancy or a coach, or you're giving advice. And you've got to care. You've got to care for the person. You've got to have that kind of heart connection. And then, you've got I guess the mind connection with the talent. So you've got to have, you've got to know what you're doing. You can't. So for me with money coaching, it really was helpful that I was a financial advisor before that, and then a trader before that. So you've got to know what you're doing essentially. So it's really dangerous if someone gets coaching from someone who doesn't know what they're doing or hasn't done it before. And then consistency. So you've got to do it every day. So this is the hand. So we've got the head, the heart, and the hand. So you've got to go. Last week I released a podcast on Thursday, and I was like, I don't, although I love doing it when I'm actually doing it, I was like, Neil, I could just go and put the Netflix on, and you don't have to do it, especially as you're a business owner. You don't have a boss sitting over you. But I got up, I pressed play, I recorded it, and the people watching, they would have no idea that I had this internal battle with me this morning. I could stay in bed, but it's actually having that passion get you out of bed. So having that, there's a really great quote from Marcus Aurelius. Is one of my books I publish, Stoic Philosophy, and it's what are you here to stay in bed nice and warm? Essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially, are you stay in bed, or are you here to do bigger and better things? To get out of bed and actually get to work. Like it's so those things you asked. So I'd say the head, where you're the passion, the head, the talent, the heart, the passion, and then the hand is the kind of consistency to do the hard things when it's called for.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, sometimes, I'm exhausted. I've been podcasting all night. I've been working on strategies. I've been doing this. And sometimes I'll just thought, okay, today I just want to sleep or just relax. And, but because I love what I do, and I am really passionate about, that's what keeps me going. And I understand the importance of consistency. So it's so key. And a lot of people that I speak to on this podcast, when they ask them, how have they grown their business and so on, they just kind of, consistency is key to it. So I totally agree with that.
And so one last point before we move on,
sure.
Cash flow, I should mention as well. So cash flow is king. So it's important to know money coming in versus money coming out. So I was lucky enough to have enough of a cash buffer in savings or investments. And I knew that even the worst things can happen. I could last years before I had to worry about cash flow. So that's, as a money coach, it's also individuals need to worry about this as well as having your own business. But you don't have to, there can be expenses, technology you have to pay for, Zoom, or you pay for, software. And yeah, to balancing that cash flow is so important to know what kind of business, where you're heading with your business. And it gives you power as well. If you have cash flow, you can turn down the work that you don't necessarily want to do. So I've been approached by credit card companies. I've been approached by kind of platforms that I wouldn't necessarily choose to work with, and I've been able to turn them down and turn away the money they offered me because I had enough of a cash buffer to last me the bad times. So even in so that's really key as well, cash flow.
What about people though? You know how I read a lot of stories about these millionaires, and someone said, "Look, I was sleeping in my car. I had no money. I couldn't even eat or anything like that." I mean, they don't have that cash flow, do they? And they just kind of go for it. Is that
Yeah.
something that you would probably not advise, be an advocate for, or advise against, so to speak? Or does it depend on your situation? Because I suppose if you've got a family, like I have, it's not as straightforward to do that. So cash flow is really important to make sure that, I can sustain my family and the life that I have.
Yeah, I definitely, it's a great point. I think, like you say, it does depend on the person and the state in life that you are. So I started Money Tips not as a side hustle. So I'd say if you can start off at a
Oh,
side hustle and you still have that income coming in to pay the bills, and it means you're not having that stress of, actually, I have to
yeah,
make this sale, I have to make this number of sales. So if you start off as a side hustle, and once you have enough money coming in from your side hustle, then you can quit your job, or even
yeah,
be your main job. You could take a part-time job. So for me, I went all in, which I had to do because of regular trade. So money is
regulatory.
highly regulated. So
Yeah,
I couldn't do education, money coaching, and be regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. They don't. The Financial Conduct Authority, and I work for a company called St James's Place, which is a FTSE 100 company, basically they're corporate, and we had to put all our marketing material through them. So we had to say
yeah.
before approved, because you
That it
couldn't
was compliant and
exactly, it had to be compliant, and rightfully so, to protect the consumer. But I as a I saw a gap in the market where if I was just saying, right, I'm just going to put out education, I'm not telling them specific advice, it's just education. Then I couldn't do both at the same time. So I went all in on
yeah,
Money Tips, which was quite scary to do. But I think it's your individual circumstance as well. So like you say, that's super important. And knowing, yeah, if you're, say, for instance, a student and you've got time because you've got a student grant and you've got time to start your own business, maybe that's perfect. But you mentioned having
yeah,
a family. I've got a family as well. So having that not knowing of being able to put food on your table is quite scary.
yeah.
um, I've been quite close to the bone a few times where
Mm.
I had to sell some assets or sell some investments that it took 2 or 3 days to clear. And I'm like, wow, you're close to the bone, and it's a downward spiral. Then things happen where you can't afford to pay for your server on your website. And then,
Yeah,
it's going to lead to a downward spiral, where actually you can't afford to pay for Zoom, so you can't get income in because you haven't paid for these softwares or whatever they are. So
yeah,
it's a delicate balance. But if you've got,
it
the more
is.
cash flow you have, the more confidence and the more it's like, I compare it to food. Like if you've got a full fridge of food, for instance, then you're going to feel much more you're not going to stress out if you're not getting that delivery of more food coming in, this
Yeah,
cash flow. Or like, think of it like water, like a tap of water. If you've got enough water to drink that cash flow, then you're going to be feeling okay, and you've got a steady stream of cash flow coming in. If for whatever reason that tap turns off and you go to the tap and there's no water, you're like, that's going to stress you out. You're going to be, I need water by the end of the day. How
yeah,
do I access that water? So cash flow is king when you're talking about a business.
yeah, for
If that
sure.
analogy works for you.
Yeah. Okay. And on I've got one final question. So, um, what advice would you give to people who are thinking about starting a company? Would you say that it's the right thing to do. I mean, you've done it yourself. What advice would you give, and advice to give them on how to actually get started? I know you said you just went for it, but there are things to consider. So what advice would you give?
Yeah, great question. So I would say, yeah, just get started. You can just today the technology is amazing. You can literally at a click of a button, you can set up an Instagram account. You can set up you can WhatsApp your friends and say, what are your problems? What are you can say, actually, what needs are you solving? You've got to go out into the world and see what problems can you solve, what meaningful problems can you solve. So for me, it was better quality education. And my key selling point is I can teach you to invest in 90 minutes like a football game. So at the moment, there was so many confusion, so many thousand different platforms, and I simplified it into, I give a menu of options. So I don't give you specific advice, but I give you a menu of options. And that means you can save tens of thousands of pounds compared to going to a financial advisor. So just go over to moneytips.org to go on our website. Tips is spelled with 2 P's. And so what advice would I give to someone? Just start as a side hustle. Find a problem to solve. Speak to your friends. You can just use, or even just a sheet of paper. Like, what problems are you facing today? Go out into the world. It's having an entrepreneur's mindset. So you have to look at the world differently. So you should go out into the world and see where you could add value to people's life. Where can you make it easier? Where can you make things quicker? Where could you improve things? So my first business was actually I used to sell chocolate in the school playground when I was a kid. Or then because I saw that the prices they charged in the school tuck shop was higher than the shop down the road. So that's how I started. And just start small and build big. And know where you want to get to as well. Have an end in mind. So what is your exit strategy? So do you want to build the next Amazon? Do you want to build the next Facebook? Do you want to build the next Tesla? So for me, I'm happy. I just want to build a business, a lifestyle business that's going to give me the freedom to spend more time with my friends, my family, and have more me time and have impact in the world. So that's my why. So understand your why. What's your why?
Oh, we've heard that a lot.
Yes, I understand that. So there's a really good quote from a philosopher called Nietzsche, and he says, if you know your why, any how is possible. I know there's another book called Know Your Why by Simon Sinek, but it comes all the way back to Friedrich Nietzsche. And it's really interesting talking, because it's going to fire, it's going to, you're going to get much quicker to where you want to get to if you know, if you have a reason for doing it rather than, I would say find people that have been successful in the past and you can emulate that.
Brilliant. Okay, so I mean, look, that has been great. You've given us so much information, so much insight. Obviously the framework that you talked about earlier, I'm going to get kind of an image of that and I'll put that in the video as well so people can actually see what that looks like, because I think that's really, really helpful for anyone out there that wants to, find their passion and identify what that actually is. But look, it's been incredible, and thank you so much for doing this interview. This is going to help a lot of people, so I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. And I'll say, get the book Millennial Money Mindset. It builds wealth, health, and happiness. And we plant a tree for each new book we bought to help the fight against climate change.
Brilliant. Again, thank you so much, and thank you for all your help and all your advice. It's been brilliant. So
thank you, Stacey. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.